It's to Deepak Koul. Deepak is an engineer manager with Red Hat right now, and he is going to speak about getting past Peters Plateau career advice for testers. Deepak, it's all yours. Could you please begin?
Thank you. Give me a second, I'll share my screen.
Thank you.
Can you all see my screen?
Yes, Deepak, please.
Okay. All right, so today we are going to talk, in next 5 minutes, we are going to talk about Peters Plateau, and as well as why it matters more for QE than any other branch of software engineering. So what has bugged me in last, I have spent almost 16 years in IT, most of it in software quality engineering. And what bugs me till today is that my next promotion could easily be my last, especially at 15 years of experience. So everybody who joins a company is a hierarchy, right? So is military, so is your company's, your country's government, and so many other things. So all of these are hierarchies. So we'll talk about hierarchy in the next slide. But the thing is, when you are in a hierarchy, your only job is to move up that hierarchy, right? You cannot join as an associate engineer and work for 10 years and still be an associate engineer. While your company would like to do so, but it does not really happen. People like to grow in their roles. And companies also like for their people to grow in their roles. But we only grow to an extent where we become incompetent for our next role. And that is the stage where there is that stagnation, and we end up in what Peter and Hull called Peters Plateau. So our career, if we look at career as a graph, then it would kind of plateau at that stage. For some people, it would be in the 10 to 20 years of their experience, or for some people, it could be later than that or earlier than that also. But it eventually comes to all of us. So this talk is more about how to see those red flags and how to mitigate and delay that stagnation and Peters Plateau in your career. All right. So we understand Peters Plateau. As I said, every company, every corporation is a hierarchy. We start at the bottom if we join as an intern or an associate engineer, and we try to reach to the top. The only way to reach to the top is through promotions. And at some promotion that you get based on probably your potential, and because potential is something which is yet to be seen, and your earlier performance in your current role, you get promoted. But after coming to this next role that you were promoted to, you're not competent enough, right? Because maybe the potential thing backfired. Somebody saw a wrong potential in you, or somebody saw potential which was less than what was expected in that role, and then you are kind of stuck in this new role, and that is the start of your stagnation period. Okay, so as I said, hierarchy is a spectrum. Everything is a hierarchy. Every system that generates value, for example, military generates value. The value is it saves us from external threats. Companies generate value. The value is money for shareholders and employment for people. My company is also a hierarchy, but hierarchies can be strong or they can be open. So it's a scale. It's not a binary switch or a Boolean whether a hierarchy is strong or it's not. So it's on a scale of, let's say, 1 to 100. Some hierarchies are very strong, like military is very strong. There is more red tape and bureaucracy in military. Some organizations are very open. Let's say they are on the left side of the scale. So how do you know whether you are in a strong hierarchy? So let's say you are a software engineer in a software engineer role. You want to talk to the backend team. Let's say you are a front-end engineer. You want to talk to the backend team for an API that they are developing, and you want to present that data in the UI that your team is developing. So those discussions, if they happen at an engineer level to engineer level, the company, or from an engineer level to backend team's manager, the company is open hierarchy. But if they happen at a very a hierarchical level, like this manager would talk to this manager and everybody should be in the loop and those kind of things, keep me in copy and all those bureaucracy and red tape, then assume that your hierarchy is a tough one or a strong hierarchy. So why are we talking about hierarchy? Because if it is a strong hierarchy, uh, then being uh, agreeable works initially. So you have to be agreeable with this, because strong hierarchies like to maintain a status quo. They don't like to be challenged. So subordination is not liked by strong hierarchy. So if you join a company and you see that it is a strong hierarchy, uh, agree to a lot of things that even though your principals don't agree with them, but you have to. So next example is about two testers. So now we are moving from Peter's principle to why it impacts QE more than any other branch of engineering. So think about this scenario. There is Tina, who is a developer, Gina, who is a tester. So both of them are trying to put a feature on production for an application which is of my competitor. Now I want to bribe one of them so that that feature does not go on production. I can either bribe Tina, the developer, or Gina, the tester. If I bribe Tina, then she won't write the code, which means that the feature won't go on production. If I bribe Gina, the tester, she won't test. But there is a likelihood that Tina, the developer, wrote the code. She did some basic rudimentary unit testing and some integration testing herself, and the feature still works in production, right? So more of Tina's work is based on skill and less on chance, and Gina's work is a lot of skill, but a lot of it is based on chance as well, right? It is also one of the principles of software testing. You cannot find all the defects. Testing is not meant to find all the defects. Okay, my next we are talking about why do we end up in Peters Plateau, or in that phase of stagnation. The first thing is called Peters inversion. So you get promoted so fast based on because your manager, in a strong hierarchy, again your manager won't be competent themselves to actually evaluate you on the skill. So what they will evaluate you on is whether you agree to them or not, right? In that case, you will be favorite of your manager and you'll get promoted. But eventually, you'll also reach a stage where that level of competence would be required, but you won't have any because you got promoted not for your skills. Second is halo effect. You are good at one thing. Let's say you are an engineer. You are good at writing front end, and then your manager is not a good engineer and he's not. So since you are good at doing one thing really cool, so they promote you to next level, maybe a team lead. But becoming a team lead means talking to people and mentoring them and coaching them, but you don't have that skill because you only got, so your one skill overshadowed everything and you got a promotion based on just pure one skill, but the next role needed a couple of other skills as well. So halo effect is something that also puts you in a stagnation. And then there is like today's scenario, right? If you have two offers in hand, and if you still are a mediocre engineer, maybe your manager would try to retain you, promising a promotion. But the next role does not, you don't have the skills, at least half of the skills that would be needed for that next role. So again, by taking that promotion, you are putting yourself in a stage of stagnation, one step closer to it. The third thing is second point is authenticity paradox, right? So I know a lot of people when they start their careers, they especially developers, they like to code. The testers, they like to test, they like to write test automation. But as you grow in your career, you have to maintain a distance between what you are actually doing day in, day out, and what the next role and how the growth looks like, right? As I said in last example, the next role would require, the senior role usually requires coaching and mentoring junior resources. But if you are so into writing code, if you are so into writing test automation, you don't have time for anything else, you find everything else uh, boring, then that authenticity, that sticking to your identity of being a tester or a coder, uh, puts you again in a stagnation phase. The third thing is skill portability. Let's say you were a great project manager or a great tester. You used to write great automation and find great bugs. And now you thought that, okay, I'll probably move from a tester to a developer, right? So you thought that the success of the tester role or the SDET role would help me create a similar success in a developer role. But that does not work, because every role is a separate context of itself, right? You being successful in one role does not, when you move horizontally, you have to be very careful in organizations whether you would be able to replicate those success, because every role has its own competencies and behaviors. Okay, so Leos Cleopold created flight levels for organizational improvement. The idea was to look at organization from different flight levels, like 20,000 feet and 35,000 feet. But I use the same concept in career progression as well. So let's say this graph, let's say you are a junior engineer. Your day-to-day job is, the blue line is doing what you are told to do. But as you move, as you spend some tenure in junior engineer, that work should gradually start declining, where you are doing what you are told to do. The simple example would be someone reading the test cases and executing them, or someone given a test case to convert it to an automation script, right? Where no thinking is involved, it is pure causality, where cause and effect both are known. So moving from that stage to another stage, so you can gauge it yourself when you are working in a company, that is my current role, am I doing the same thing which I was doing 6 months ago? If you are doing the same thing, that's a red flag. As I said, sustained high causality work where cause and effect are known is a red flag. Working at a wrong flight level, that means you are being paid to be a senior engineer. Your title is a senior engineer, but you are working at a junior engineer level, where you are told what to do. You are given a list of test cases to automate. You are given a list of test cases to execute, all of those things. Never do that. If you are paid for a senior engineer, you have to demonstrate the competencies of a senior engineer, even though your company is very happy to let you do all the low high causality work. The third thing is ambiguity aversion. So as you move upwards in hierarchy, the things are not simple as they are at the junior levels, right? So at a senior role, let's say at a lead role, there would be conflict resolution. So some people don't want to talk about it. They find ambiguity very tough to deal with. But it's the name of the game, right? If you want to grow your career in an organization, you have to deal with ambiguity. And the third thing is scarce skills. So some people think that if I know how to do UI automation, API automation, and performance testing, and if I go to company, I hoard these skills to myself. I'll not teach the other people who don't know how to do all three things altogether. Then I'll probably be very resourceful for the company, and I'll always have a great time. But that is shooting yourself on the foot. If you are holding scarce skills to yourself, you are making yourself irreplaceable. That means that you are not getting promoted, right? So if you are replaceable, promotion is also a replacement, right? Somebody takes your role, you take somebody else's role. And in the end, I'll leave you with this quote from Dr. Lawrence J. Peter and Raymond Hull, who created this philosophy, the Peter principle, as well as the book, that competence, like truth, beauty, and contact lenses, is in the eye of beholder.
Yep. Thank you, Deepak sir, for your amazing insight, and we, in such a small amount of time, were able to learn a lot. So thank you so much, sir. Everyone.